positions will be lost. Now, teachers that will be affected will have to go and find another teaching position in the district. If for some reason you do not find a teaching position at another school in the district, you will still get paid next year, your last year. I'm telling you up front, if it's the last year of your contract and you don't find another teaching position, next year will be your last year on the payroll with the district. Even if you're not teaching a child next year, you may still get paid by contract. We have to pay you. But it will be your last year unless you find another position in the district. And I'm going to tell you that, staff, it will be up to you to find your position. Michael Henderholz not going to call you up and say, well, I want to see you to this school. It's not going to happen. Donovan Shaw is not going to do that. It's not going to do that. Now, you're going to get a new superintendent. Now, I do it pro bono. Now, before you start asking questions, I want Larry and Brown to come here and explain why we need to do this and some of the consequences that I may have forgotten to tell you.
Niece isn't there.
Then I'll come back and give my rebuttal. Larry, don't be afraid.
Hello. Can we hear from the superintendent too, since he's here?
Don't cry. He's going for representative.
We'll let him host come back to him.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn.
It is with some difficulty that the administration has to make this proposal. This is not a proposal that came from the administration. It didn't come from the state. It's a federal government rule. And what precipitates it is that Dallas receives $75 million each year from the federal government for a program that most of you know is Title I. Title I gives us lots of teachers, lots of counselors, nursing, gives us instructional specialists. Title I is the largest distribution of funds that the U.S. government provides to public schools in the state of Texas. And Dallas gets the second largest amount of all 1,050 school districts. The only district that gets more money than Dallas is Houston. So we have $75 million on the table. And in order to get the $75 million, you must have 45% or greater of free and reduced lunch. No problem. We have 70% of my children on free and reduced lunch. But then the federal government says, before we give you $75 million, and you can start spreading it amongst your 220-some districts, the federal government says, we want to be sure that you are spending your own money that you raise in taxes and that the state gives you. Your own money that the state gives you and your taxes. We want you to spread that equally amongst your district so that all the children in your district have an equal opportunity to the same amount of dollars. And it says, if you spread the money equally, do not show any favoritism with any of your campuses, so that it doesn't matter where you live in Dallas ISD, north, south, east, or west, that the same amount of dollars follow the students. And there are, out of our 225 schools, there are 31 of our campuses that are not equally funded. The funding is defined by the federal government, because we're talking about the federal government, not the state legislature. It's the amount of dollars that's allocated to your campus based on a per pupil allotment. Amount of dollars per student. Example. The range is that you first determine the average, take all the students and all the dollars and determine an average. And say the average is $6,000. All right? If the average is $6,000, the government realizes that not every campus has $6,000. It's on the average. Probably nobody's got. If you know anything about statistics, nobody's the average. Everybody's above or below. So the government says, okay, you don't have to have everybody at 6,000, but you have to have everybody at 90% of 6,000. So you can be less than 6,000. And 10% less than 6,000 is 5,400. So you can be as low as 5,400, or you can be 10% above. 10% above 6,000 is 6,600. So as long as you, and this is all over America. This is not a Dallas and Texas rule. This is the U.S. government putting tens of billions of dollars out there, and every school district has to follow the same rule. And so you have to ensure that all of your schools are within 90% of the average, or no more than 110%. Now, our most year that we have calculated, one moment, sir, I'll give you an opportunity. The most recent year that we've calculated this, and we've gotten to 75 million every year, but when we sent in our application this year in February for our 75 million, they returned our application and said, we just found out that for all these years, you have not included your 16 learning center campuses and your 15 magnet campuses. You've got to include all of your campuses, Dallas. You can't include some of them. And what we were excluding were our 31 campuses that were on the high range. They were higher than 110%. Because all the other campuses, which is about 190 of them, they all fell within the bandwidth. But the law says, the federal law again, if even one campus falls outside the bandwidth, no money. You bring in all your campuses. We want you to treat all of your students equally in Dallas. And until you do that, we're not sending you any money. So we sent in our report in February, and they found out that we had never included these 31 schools. So they gave us an opportunity to say, okay, we realize it's February and you can't do anything about it. You've only got March, April, May, and school's over. But we still want you to send in your learning center schools and your magnet schools. And they told us what to do. They said, okay, take your magnet schools and don't compare them to the learning center and don't compare them to the other 180. Just take your 15 magnet schools and compare them to themselves. Well, of course, everything was fine. And they said, do the same thing with your learning center schools, and we did that. And then you can take your 190 schools and send it to us. So we have those three groups. Everything is fine for 1 year. They said, we'll let you transition in the current year. However, as you prepare your budget for the next year, which is the 9-10 year, going to start school in August, you need to allocate your resources equally so all children benefit. Not some children, all children. So it is to that extent that we now are in discussion with the community, with the trustees, okay, we've got to bring all our schools into compliance. And they're all out at the top end. We're not underfunding anybody. We're overfunding these 31 schools. The magnets tend to appeal to one type of students, and the learning center schools are neighborhood schools. The magnets are not neighborhood schools by and large. You can apply to go to all these different magnets. Anybody from the district can go to the magnets, but not everybody can go to the learning center. It's a neighborhood school. So we're now at the point where Dr. Blackburn accurately described that in this one example, Sequoyah Learning Center over here, it would lose. It currently, if we did nothing, it would get 36 employees next year. Under the formula that every other school has to operate on, they'd get 28 and a half. So the difference is 7.5 employees. Then the principal decides what 7.5 that would be. Do you want to lose teachers? Do you need teacher aides? Can you give up some teacher aides? Is it an assistant principal? Is it a counselor? And etc. The principal largely determines the staffing at a campus. So it is no small item. And it's with deep regret that we have to come out and share this information with any community. But we have to go to the magnet schools and tell them the same thing. So it is with that that I believe Dr. Blackburn will be.
I have a question for you.
Let me add another point to this matter. How do we find out about this? We got a letter from the Texas Education